My mom created a fun way for us to learn the most important rules of life. Yah's command.
With Yah's Big Ten Commands, we get to see His will's best for us.
Keep Yah first.
No graven images.
Don't take Yah's name in vain.
Remember Shabbat and keep it holy.
Honor your parents.
Do not kill.
Mr. and Mrs., don't cheat.
Don't steal.
Don't tell lies.
Don't covet.
This changes everything. Get your set of Yah's Big Ten Commands at Big Ten Designs today.
Even when I'm weak, your word sustains me. I can suffer long. Nothing can change me or take away my love of y'all. Into the future, needing answers so bad. It's hard to bear. Someone is raging too high. It's all consuming.
Grace and peace, Shabbat Shalom. Do me a favor, put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. I'm going to make sure that I can be heard well. Put 1 in the chat if you can hear me. I pray that y'all are doing well today. Thank you so much for coming in and joining me tonight. We're going to have a very important discussion tonight. Very, very important discussion. So do me a favor, if you have not already liked this video, go ahead and do that. Please like the video, share the video, subscribe if you have not already subscribed. Don't forget to hit that bell so that you can get those notifications when they come out. We also ask you to support the platform. So I'm so glad to be here with y'all tonight to have this important discussion. Y'all know I told I was on live that I wouldn't be on live unless it was important. From time to time, I will put videos up that I believe that are relevant to where we are at in this dispensation of time. But if you see me on live, it's because it's important. Spending a lot more time, being very careful and attentive to be busy about my Father's business, which means that I have to be busy in my home. But I thank all of you who have been giving me your kind commentary, all of you who have been reaching out to me and expressing the impact that this work has made in your lives. I'm very grateful to all of you. Thank you for praying for my family. Thank you very much for being concerned about us. That means a lot. I want to give a shout out to those of y'all in the building before we get ready to start. Again, hit that like button if you have not already done so. Shout out to Michelle Anderson. We will be definitely discussing Penuel and or Penuel. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but we'll be discussing his commentary tonight. But thank you and welcome to the platform. Commander Peace, yes, it will be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Clifford Possible, shalom, good to see you. Grace and peace. Naomi Levi, peace and blessings to you. Peace and blessings. Tamara, Shabbat shalom, peace and blessings to you. Brenda Higgins, shalom, shalom, good to see you. Good to have you in the building. Time Truth, grace and peace. Good to see you as well. S. Dowdy, peace and blessings to you. Tamil Love, I saw you earlier. In the discussion, the interview earlier that I posted on the premiere. So glad to have you back here tonight. Thank you so much for showing up. Georgette Pennick, grace and peace. Thank you so much for coming in. All right, let me see who else is on here. Don P, peace and blessings to you, my brother. Good to see you as always. Darnell Blackshare, peace and blessings to you as well, my brother. Good to see you. Hawkeyes in the building, peace and blessings. Shout out to Yasun, peace and blessings to you as always, my Caribbean brother. Yvette Rivera, peace and blessings to you. Grace and peace. Eric Tinsley in the building, another one of my Caribbean brothers, peace and blessings to you as well. Damian Jones, shalom, shalom, peace and blessings to you. Yafet bin Dawood, peace and blessings to you as well. Thank you so much for coming in. And finally, Yaha, peace and blessings to you. If I missed you, please forgive me. I want to go ahead and jump into tonight's discussion. But thank you so much for showing up and coming in. Next week, I will be back on live with Ron Dalton because he is actually getting ready to have his first in a long time debate. Y'all know he's come on this platform plenty of times challenging anyone to debate him. And yes, it has finally happened. So next week, we will be discussing the debate between Deacon Haka and Ron Dalton. Where is the Holy Land, the Middle East or Sub-Sahara Africa? This is going to be a very powerful discussion in preparation for this very exciting debate. I'm going to be there at the debate. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be listening in. I'm going to be tuning in. Why? Because I believe that this is just that important. It's absolutely important for us to understand where is Zion, right? Scripture says we're going to be pointing and saying, which way to Zion? So it's very important for us to have this discussion. And I believe that there's going to be scholarly work that happens on both sides. There's nobody who's going to be entering into the space that's shabby. Shout out to Deacon Haka. There's nobody's going to be entering into the space that is shabby. Okay, it's just not going to happen. Y'all know Ron Dalton. Y'all already know he's going to bring it. So next week, join us as we have this discussion with Brother Ron. And that's going to be something that's going to be pretty powerful. So with that in mind, again, if you were just coming in the building, I ask you to do me a favor, hit that like button and share this because it's a very important discussion. I'm sharing my views tonight about the interview that took place between Brother Ron and Penuel. And I'm going to be sharing from two main points. So here's the thing. Do me a favor and let me know if you saw the interview already. Put a 1 in the chat if you saw the interview earlier today. Quite a few of you all. My back studio tells me that we've gotten almost 4,000 views, if not already. So I'm thinking that quite a few of you who are in the building tonight have already seen it. Okay. All right, great. All right. Fantastic. Okay, for those of you who have not seen the interview, spoiler alert, okay? Spoiler alert. We're going to be dissecting some things from that video. I still encourage you to watch the entire interview. If you have not seen the interview as of yet, I encourage you to still watch it because there are so many nuggets. There's so much important information in there. But what we're going to be discussing tonight are two main points that were brought up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pull up that interview, and we're going to start where Ron is addressing his issues when it came to actually getting the movie Hebrews to Negroes in the movie theater in South Africa, some of the things that he was coming up against. There are some things that I'm going to be jumping in and giving commentary on along the way, but let's go ahead and dig in so we can dissect this very important discussion.
At all levels, people in sub-Saharan Africa have been bamboozled, and part of the slumber that we're in, that they want to keep us in, is us not understanding our identity, our ancestry, our lineage, and our heritage. Because if they can control history, then they can control the future. And if we don't know who we are, then how can we do all things in accordance to who we are? And if they know who we are, but we don't, and they know what the secret to our success and rise is in Africa, they're going to do exactly everything they can to stop us from rising. And that's exactly what they're doing today with the censorship and banning of the movie Hebrews to Negroes in America and in South Africa. A lot of people don't know that for the last 2 years, I've been fighting the South African Jewish Board of Deputies, because they petitioned in March of 2023 to ban the movie Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up Black America, so that no person in South Africa can see this movie. Majority of South Africa is Black. The Jewish people in South Africa make up less than 1% of South Africans, but yet they had the power to petition to the South African Film and Publication Board to say, we want this film rated XX, same level as child pornography. We want this movie to not be able to be exhibited or distributed or watched, period, in South Africa. And
now I want to pause right there, because Ron made an excellent point. He said that the Ashkenazi Jewish community in South Africa consists of 1% of the population, and yet they yield enough power in order to be able to shut down a film, have it classified and rated something that is completely contrary to what the intent of the film was about, not even on the same Richter scale at all. But it is very important that we hear that, because I titled this Uncivil War for a reason. Now, I do want to give a shout out to Penuel for inviting Ron Dalton to come on his podcast. He is quite a huge influencer in South Africa. So that is a very good thing that he invited him. Unfortunately, he did not air this interview. And so myself and Brother Lorvins, we are the ones airing this interview. And I believe that it's because of the way in which Ron shared so much details about what's going on, the intricacies of the politics behind the awakening of Yah's people in South Africa. And it was just so much information that he put out there about how he is being attacked. I'm going to go ahead and let him to continue. But 1%, keep that in mind, 1% has and yields that much power in a land that's not even their own. Take a listen.
And we have to ask ourselves why, because last year they hired lawyers, worksmen's attorneys, and I battled them and I defeated them. That they used Section 18, and I defeated them. And then now they went to Section 19, and so last week I had to go before the South African Film and Publications Board and met with them again. And I said, why am I meeting with you guys again? I thought I defeated the South African Jewish Board of Deputies. And they said, no, well, you did. And they said, well, they are using Section 19 now. And I said, okay, what's the issue? I mean, the same issue they had with the movie last year. I mean, has anything changed? And they said no, but they came here. They physically came here after you defeated them November the 8th, 2023. They weren't happy. They didn't give up. And they came back here in January 29th, 2024. The South African Jewish Board of Deputies and Workmen's attorneys had a meeting in Centurion at their head office, and they met with them and said, "Hey, under Section 19, we want to appeal this decision because we want this movie to be banned." And I said, "Okay, so here I am again fighting the Jews." And I said, "If I defeat them again, what's next?" And then he said, "Well, I'm glad you asked that question." He said, "Next, they can use Section 20. And I said, "What does Section 20 say?" And he read it in the rule book. And I said, "What's after that?" He said, "Then they have to appeal to the high court." And I said, "Okay, if they get shot down and they get defeated in the high court, what's next?" And then he said, "The Supreme Court." And I said, "Okay, if I defeat them there, then what's next?" And then he said, "Well, the president of South Africa is over everything." And so I said, "This is crazy, because how can they keep doing this, and why are they doing this?" And they said, "Well, we don't understand, because never in the history of South Africa, in the history of the South African Film and Publications Board, have we had this type of film that another group of people that are really a minority in South Africa, that they want this film banned." He said, "Usually films that are contested to be banned are films that contain child pornography or homosexuality." And he said, "But your film has none of these things. So I don't understand why they want this movie banned." And so he said, if this movie is banned, it'll be a first in the history of South Africa, in the history of the South African Film and Publications Board. And I said, well, guess what? I said, if the Jews are successful in banning this movie so that no South Africans can see it, then South Africa will be the first country in the world to ban this nonfiction, historical, biblical documentary that's about Black history. They'll be the first country in the world to ban this movie at the hands of the Jews, who in essence are the minority. And I said, does South Africa want to be the first country on the list to be televised as banning Hebrews to Negroes when it's a Black country? And he just looked and didn't say anything. And I said, well, imagine.
Now, that's a very important point. And I had earlier some people in the comment section that were from South Africa. And if you are from South Africa, I definitely want to hear what you have to say in the chat. But there's some just disturbing information that is just coming out about how South Africans approach the colonialist powers there, particularly from the Jewish community. And so when Ron asked the question about, okay, does South Africa want to become the first country in the world to ban a movie that is supposed to be about the history of a quote unquote Black people? What do South Africans are Black, right? Are supposed to be a Negro populace, if you will. Again, I'm only using that term Black because that's an identifier. But that is something that we need to think about, the profound nature of that. That another group of people who represent less than 1% of the populace can come in and wield enough power to shut down a movie that is not even discussing them. It's not tailored to them. It has nothing to do with them. So those of you who are in South Africa, I'm wanting to know how you feel about that. I'm wanting to know how you feel about your history, or someone who is presenting some information that is historical about you in a movie form or a documentary form, you not having access to watch it because 1% of the population that is not even indigenous to that land has that type of power to dictate to you. I'm going to be having conversations tonight with South Africans regarding this, because you have to ask yourself, do you understand that you are in a war over your identity? You see, because I believe that identity and faith are inextricably linked. You cannot have in sincerity one without the other. I don't care when people tell you, oh, well, your identity isn't important as long as you have faith. That's not biblical at all. And if you actually read from Genesis to Revelation, you will see that there are two consistent things: your identity or lineage, and you're tied to your faith. The two of them go hand in hand. And they understand this. And this is why they have done and are continuing to do everything that they can to keep you ignorant to the knowledge of self. Are you okay with that?
Black people are the minority in China. And there's a Chinese filmmaker that says, this is a documentary about the ancient history of the Chinese people going back to 3000 or 2000 BC. And the Chinese filmmaker wants to show this movie to Chinese people. And we got some Black people in China that make up like 0.05%, say, hey, we don't want you guys to show this movie because we don't like it. You think the Chinese people or the government would allow Black people in China to ban a Chinese-made movie about the history of the Chinese people? No. But somehow, some way, in South Africa, under these regulations, the Jews have the power to contest this, and if successful, they will have essentially banned a movie about Black history, because at the end of the day, the subtitle is Wake Up Black America. And when I showed the movie at Soweto Theater, because prior to Soweto Theater, we had booked the Monte Casino Theater, the IMAX Theater 11, for May the 20th or May the 11th. And I signed the contract with Sterkinacor. I paid the money and everything was a go. We were advertising. We asked DJ Spoo if he could be a speaker at the event. He said yes. And we were passing out flyers on William Nichols and different areas in Johannesburg, and then also in Soweto. And then 10 days prior to the movie event, I get an email from Sterkinacor, and they said that Tosogo Sun made an executive level decision, and they told us to cancel your contract with Sterkinacor. And I said, why? And they said, we don't know why. And they said it's not up for negotiation or discussion. They said that the movie event is effectively canceled as of today. And I said, well, in the contract, it gives you reasons why you can cancel the contract. And you guys have not given me any reason that's valid to why you can just cancel my contract. And I paid the money. And they said, well, we know, I'm sorry, we're just as in the dark as you are. This is Sterkinacor. And I said, well, I want my money back. He said, oh yeah, we'll give you money back. And I said, wow. And I said, how did they find out about this? And they said, we don't know. So then I did the research and I Googled the history of Tosogo Sun, or Southern Sun, in Monte Casino theaters. And a Jewish man named Solomon Kirzner founded it. And I said, it makes sense now. And so after that, we said, okay, they're not going to stop us. I got my money back, and I went and inquired with Johannesburg Theater. They didn't have any openings. I went to Pretoria State Theater. And before I can call them, Prince Africa Zulu, he called me. And he said, I've heard that something happened with your movie and they canceled it. And I said, yeah. And he said, who canceled it? And I said, Tosogo Sun. And he said, okay. He said, well, let's see if we can get it seen in Pretoria State Theater. I know that the general manager. And so we called the general manager on three-way, and he seemed hesitant. And I found out later that day that he had already got an email from the Jews saying that you should not allow Mr. Dalton to show his movie here because of this. And I was like, wow. I said, before I can even sit down and talk to the man and inquire, they already canceled Monte Casino. And so they already did their homework and were 2 steps ahead. They were thinking like, okay, we canceled Monte Casino. What is this guy going to do next? Where is he going to show the movie now? Haha, we got him. He can't do it. You know,
I want us to think about the type of unity and the type of power that it takes in order to stay one step ahead of your enemy. I want us to think about that. That when the Jewish people decide that they don't want information to be decimated, they want to censor information, they do their homework, then they make phone calls ahead of time. They strategize, make phone calls ahead of time before that information could even be decimated. And say, make sure that this information does not see the light of day. I want us to think about that as an Israelite people. One of the things that predominantly stood out to me with this interview was the sore lack of unity among us as a people. That we are so busy about just living from one day to the next, that we don't understand that we are in a war, that we don't understand that there are powers that should not be that spend their days and their nights strategizing on how to keep us weak, docile, disunited. That's in the diaspora as well as the continent. That is so evident in what Ron just shared when he says before he got even a chance to even approach this theater, they had already gone before him and said, don't show that there. And so the man was hesitant. Let's continue to listen, because there's a particular point that I'm going to get to, but I want y'all to understand the backstory of what's going on first, so that you understand the war that we're in.
I'm sure they were laughing like, but then they intercepted before I can even get to Pretoria State Theater. So then that was a no-go. So then I went to Soweto Theater and I met with the management team and I said, do you have any openings? And they said, yes, we have they said June 11th. And I said, can I book it? And they said, sure. And I said, how much does it cost? They told me, and I said, if I pay right now, it's secure. And they said, yes. And I said, can anybody come and call you guys and cancel it? And they said, no. Why would they do that? And I said, because we already went to the same thing at Monte Casino. And he said, well, Soweto Theater is owned by the city of Joburg. It's not owned by one man or a Jewish man. And I said, okay. I said, do I have your word? And they said, yes, don't worry. So I paid. I got the receipt. The marketing team contacted me the next day and said, we need this, and that, so we can start advertising on the outdoor screen. We can advertise at Mapunya Mall or Jubilani Mall, and we could put the information on the website. The next day, I get a phone call from the GM of Soweto Theater and the team, and they said, Mr. Dalton, can we have you come in to meet us? And I said, this a day later. What for? I just saw you the other day. We need to talk to you. And I said, I already know what it's about. So we drive down the next day all the way back to Soweto. And they say, hey, how you doing? How's your day going? I said, good. And I said, I already know what it's about. And they started laughing. And I said, you laughing, but I know it's what I'm gonna be about. They take us in the elevator, go to the second or third floor. We go into the room. They close the door. It's like 3 or 4 of them in there. And they say, look, Mr. Dalton, we cannot show your film here. And I said, but I just was here the other day. And I said, if I pay, and sign the contract that you can't cancel it. And they put their head down. And I said, well, who called? Who called? You know, and I said, I thought the city of Joburg owned Sort of Theater. He said, well, the masses are not happy with you showing your film here. And I said, who are the masses? The masses are black people. I'm driving through Soweto, I see black people. He says, yes. I said, well, who are the masses? And the lady that was sitting over here, she said, oh, I'll tell you who called. The lady said, the embassy of the Jewish people of South Africa, the South African Jewish Board of Deputies. And I said, the embassy of Israel and the South African Jewish Board of Deputies called you and told you to cancel it. And they said, yes. And I said, do you have any names?
The masses. The masses. That's why when y'all walk around calling yourselves minorities, it really disturbs my spirit. Because even though we are clearly the majority, whether that we are in the diaspora on the continent, we believe that they are the masses. We believe that they are superior. Collectively as a people, you cannot convince me that we as a people do not collectively believe they are superior. That's why we even say white supremacy. We agree with them that they are supreme. Because the language is reflective of somebody who is supreme over you. The masses, the South African Jewish Board of Deputies, they're the masses. In Africa. This is a problem. Now, I'm going to skip past some of this because Ron basically goes on to explain how he pretty much had to threaten them with a lawsuit because he signed a contract saying that nobody could shut him down. Nobody could call and say the film couldn't be shown. So he had to get approval. He had to get a ratings approval, and it took a while for him to get it. There was even an earthquake, and he almost didn't get a chance to premiere his movie. They tried to shut him down from being able to have access to advertisement like anybody else's film, so that people wouldn't even know that the movie was there. We got a movie and then you can't even advertise, so how is anybody supposed to know that the film is even taking place, that is there? But the reason why we're here tonight is because of something I want to share with y'all that he said over here. This is very important for us to listen to, because this should help us to understand just how deep this thing goes, just how deep it goes.
We're going to talk about the 3,000-year-old Hebrew script that was found in the caves in the Congo. The script of Hebrew that Moses and the Israelites wrote. And they did the talk. And after the whole thing was done, like I had security there, and I had a security caravan drive me back to my house, and I had 3 videographers that were there. So we had 3 cameras that were recording the talks. And one of my videographers, he left and went back to Randburg at his house. And when he got to his gate and opened the gate, he said a BMW pulled up, no license plate. And he said 2 guys got out and they had the face mask on, and they had guns. And they said, don't scream. If you do what we say, you won't get hurt. And they said, open the trunk. He opened the trunk, and they went into the bag that he had the SD cards. They went in there, shuffled around, looked in the bag. They seen the SD cards, and they took it. They closed the trunk, and they took his phone. They took his keys. They got in the car. They left. He said, Ron, they didn't take my wallet. They didn't take my money. They didn't take the camera gear I had in the front. In the back, he said he had a Canon EOS R5, top of the line. He had that. He had a computer. He had a lot of stuff in there. They didn't take that. They didn't take his car. He said the gate was open. They could have came in the house and cleaned him out. He said, Ron, all they wanted was the stuff in the trunk. He said they specifically said open the trunk, and they took my keys and phone and then drove off. And I said, do you think they followed you home from Soweto? And he said, yeah. He said the car I'm driving is a regular car that's on the street. It's on the street in Johannesburg. It's like a little Toyota car. It's not flashy. So he said, I don't understand, but I know that they follow me. And
Do y'all understand what I'm saying when I say that we're at war? This is an uncivil war being waged against us. I think we collectively as a people, we have so many blind spots that we're not able to understand just how deep the rabbit hole goes into hiding the truth of our identity from us. And we can't intimidate the movie theater because of a potential lawsuit, then we're going to hire men that are going to go and rob the cameraman for the SD cards. For the SD card. I don't think we have time to play. I don't think we have time at this point in the world, in the stage in which the world is in, to be acting like this is light work. This is not light work. Do we not understand that the entire world is hinged on the ignorance of the true Yahudim? On the blindness of the true people of the book? This entire world is spiritual. This entire world is spiritual. And everything that we're seeing is a manifestation of what's taking place in the heavenlies. This is from the book of Daniel, when Daniel was waiting to receive the answer to his prayer. And in the heavens, there was war. As Gabriel was, he was being held bound so that he couldn't deliver the message, and Michael had to come out and war so that the message could come out about this time that we're living in right now, this dispensation that we're living in right now. Even back then, the war over the truth was taking place in the heavens, and now we are here walking through the manifestation of it, witnessing the manifestation of it, living in the manifestation of it. As someone said earlier, the matrix, right? That's a term that we can all relate to, because that term shows that there are two worlds. And what we're seeing is that when you begin to get the understanding, or your eyes opened up, the eyes of your understanding, as the scripture says, that the devil will stop at nothing to make sure that you can't open up anybody else's eyes. And he will work extra overtime to try to close your eyes again. He will distract you in every way possible in order to keep you ignorant of the knowledge of self, because he understands that if you understand who you are, then there is going to be problems. There's going to be real problems, because now scripture is being fulfilled. Now prophecy is being fulfilled. Now Ezekiel 37, the two sticks are uniting as one into an army. No more of the dry bones, but they're waking up. Life is being breathed into them. This is what the war is about right here. This is why there is a war. To keep you in your dry bone state. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Why are we destroyed? Hosea 4:6 says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And then it goes on to say, which we're going to see with the interviewer later on. Why? Because they reject it. We have this tactical warfare, guerrilla-like warfare that is coming from so many different directions. It's not one-sided. This isn't, oh, okay, I just see one enemy and therefore I can focus in on how to strategize against this one enemy. This is the Nehemiah moment of trying to build a wall while you have your own people opposing you in the background too. So you got to have a brick in one hand and a sword in the other. Because information is being put out to censor you, to stop you, to confuse the work. So when Ron Dalton gets up here on these platforms and some people are like, oh, well, he's making it about him. You're missing it. You are missing it wholeheartedly if you think that he's getting up here and he's talking about himself. You are deceived. This isn't about Ron Dalton. This is about the whole house of Israel. This is one man who is being a representative of what is happening to each and every one of us. The silencing, the censoring, the ignorance. He's fighting against that. And yet you have people who are fighting him for fighting against that. That doesn't make any sense. This is the disunity among us. And they are unraveling at the seams. Let me be very clear about that. Because we're going to get it together because Yahuwah said so. It will be a remnant. But understand that the other side that is standing in our way is unraveling. Do me a favor and put a 1 in the chat if you were able to get a snapshot, a glimpse, or even watch the entirety of the interview between Candace Owens and Rabbi Shmuley. Put a 1 in the chat if you were able to see any of that. Now, y'all know I've talked about Candace Owens a lot on this channel. Brother Ron and I just got finished talking about her and the fact that she operates as COINTELPRO, op, counter, whatever you want to call it. But how many of us know at the same time that the king's heart is in the hand of Yahuwah and he turns it whithersoever he wills? How many of us know that he is still very much on his throne and he is still very much in control? She came swinging out the gate with Revelation 2:9 or 3:9. And she said, I'm talking to you. I saw so many comments from people who said that that debate was 50% Candace Owens swinging hard on him and 50% of him destroying himself. They're unhinged. They're unhinged. And I looked at it and I said, you know what? See, because it's not about me. It's not about what I think. It's about what Yahuwah is doing in this earth. I laughed throughout that interview. I said, man, I was elated that the whole world got to see this man with egg on his face, representing a group of people who have worked very, very diligently and very hard to continue to cover up lies. So shout out to Candace Owens on that. And I do pray for her. Don't think for 1 second that I hate Candace Owens. I do not. I will never hate My brothers and my sisters. Do I long for the day that she would turn truly away from the systems of this world? Yes, I do. Israel's greatest allies. To be quite frank, I believe that she can be very admirable at times, very articulate. Do I want to trust her? Absolutely, I do. But whether it's her or whether it's someone else, Yahuwah is going to get his word out. He's going to expose the hands of darkness. And if she stays with her handlers, then she also will be swallowed up, no matter how much relevant truth that she's presenting. We're at war. We can't allow ourselves to continue to be distracted when people have been working overtime to keep us ignorant of the knowledge of self. Because when you have the ignorance and knowledge of self, you don't know how to worship your creator properly. You don't, because you don't know where you come from. My father recently told me, he says he's learning the journey of who he is and who his forefathers were. It's helping him to understand why he thinks the way he does, why he does what he does. You see, they don't want you to understand why you think the way that you do and why you do what you do to this day. They want you to be ignorant. And it's time to wake up. So those SD cards were robbed. You see that Ron had to go through extreme things in order for him to be able to even get his film played at the Soweto Theater. But now we're going to take a listen to the response by the host. Out of everything that he said that day, out of everything that he communicated, we're going to listen to what he took away from that exchange.
On many social platforms.
I've been biting my tongue. I've got a lot of questions. I've got a lot of comments. I think in the interest of time, I'm probably going to do them on a different platform. Thank you for sharing, by the way, the very difficult journey you've had to undergo in this country and in America. I'm going to just share a few points, and then I'm going to allow you to close off.
Okay.
I normally have conversations here, and it becomes difficult when some people come here to just say something without engaging. But I can see that this is burning you very much, and that's why I had to take a step back and let you speak. Mm-hmm. We do need to have the conversations around African history and where it comes from. I do fear that a lot of those stories are going to be compromised in many ways, because a lot of the history is oral. A lot of it has been infiltrated by different opinions from different sides. And anyone who will read the history will probably read it in maybe an English language, which already, by the time it's translated, means it's been infected with some perspective. The second thing is my concern with a religious book like the Bible as one of your major sources of what you call the truth. A book that has caused a lot of pain on this continent and even outside of this continent, and led to millions of murders. A book that was not brought to specifically South Africans in a very friendly way, that we almost are being asked to embrace, almost a second wave of embracing this book that has caused a lot of harm. And it almost sounds like there's a Stockholm syndrome in wanting so badly to hold on to this book, which would be a
So let's address that. He talks about the reality that the Bible, in the form in which it was brought to the continent by the colonialist, has done extensive damage to the nations there. And he compared it to Stockholm Syndrome. Now, Penuel sounds like a very intellectual man. Learned that he does research, he's diligent. So it didn't sit too well with me that he left out the part of history where the scriptures were actually birthed in Africa. That the original manuscript was birthed in Africa. That it is not a European history that was brought to Africa, but it is one that was co-opted, Hellenized, and repackaged and sent back to the continent to oppress the people. When in its original form, it was about awakening the people, freeing the people from the bondage of their sin, helping them to understand lineage, helping them to understand how the kingdom works, who they are, where they come from. I told y'all before, when it comes to identity and faith, I believe that they're inextricably linked. You can see this when you go into the scripture and you see lineage. You see this person beget that person who beget that person, the table of nations. Genesis chapter 10 is where it starts. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, Japheth, and they went on to have X amount of sons, X amount of sons who had X amount of sons, and sometimes they will put daughters in, but they continue to show the male line, lineage that came out of the cradle of civilization, that came out of the motherland. So I'm a little bit confused in terms of his critical thinking skills. That he can't see that that book that was birthed from our ancestors, inspired by our creator, co-opted by our oppressor, repackaged and resold and rebranded to us, to subjugate us. And that this man here, Ron Dalton, is literally trying to help those within the continent understand that that book was not their oppressor, but those who have trained them to think, have trained them to think under the mind of the oppressor. So I can't buy this, that Stockholm syndrome. No, that's a choice. That's a willing choice that they continue to make to allow themselves to be subjugated in the mind and the heart by the same oppressors who are subjugating them economically, politically, in current society. That's a choice that they're making. Because what you're saying to me, and I don't believe that this is true at all, but you're saying to me that the African is not intelligent enough to be able to discern the difference between the material that he's been given and those who are presenting the material. He cannot dissect. He cannot be a Berean and search the scriptures out for himself to see whether it's true. He can't go back into the record books. He can't go back into history. He can't go back into archaeology, geography. He can't do all of those things and say, wait a minute. Based on what I'm reading, it's not communicating what you're saying. What you're saying it is communicating. I don't believe that. I don't believe that the African man, woman, or child is ignorant. I believe that the African man, woman, and child is intelligent. So I feel like that's a cop-out. That's a cop-out to use that word to try to make the Bible guilty because of those who have taken the Bible and misconstrued it. You're going to you're going to hear him even later as he shares his thoughts on the Jewish community. You're going to discuss the people who call themselves Jewish, which means that they are telling you that they believe that they are, in fact, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's Bible. So either you believe in the Bible or you don't. You can't have it both ways. Let's continue.
Conversation and a debate on its own. One of the things I will raise when I engage this is trying to figure out if the Bantu people were the Israelites and maybe were the Jewish people, who are the Jewish people that we see today, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, if we ever get to a point where we all agree that life started in Africa, the question becomes, where do the Caucasians and the Mongoloids come from, besides the Negroids, if we are all meant to be from here?
Mm-hmm.
I worry about narrative and story and everyone wanting to be the so-called God's chosen people. We've got the Jewish community today, or at least the known Jewish community. We've got the Afrikaner community in South Africa who also believe they have a covenant with God, and this is their land that God gave them. They call it the fatherland.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want y'all to put a pin in what he just said. I'm worried that there are a lot of people who want to make the claim that they are God's chosen people, because of something I'm going to share with you all later. Because when we talk about the character of a person and how they're communicating, remember that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So put a pin in what he just said about what he's worried about.
We've got Africans who are yearning to accept and embrace this narrative that this land, which is meant to be for all of us, if you believe in a God, belongs to a certain group of people and it was stolen from them in some way. And even the idea that people must come home as if the rest of the world is not for us to enjoy. I worry about conspiracy theories and the things you're saying. And not just you, there are many scholars I've heard that utter many of the similar narratives that you're saying about Kemet, the Kushites, Niger, La Negra, the Negroes, where we come from, the Arabs, the split between the Arabs, where the Arabs come from.
Mm-hmm.
Conspiracy theory. I'm worried about conspiracy theory on what you have said about Kemet, what you said about Niger. That's the choice and wording that he chose to use. It's conspiracy theory, which by definition, a conspiracy theory is an explanation for an event or situation that asserts the existence of a conspiracy by powerful and sinister groups, often political in motivation, when other explanations are more probable. So if Ron gives the etymology of a word, does that make it a conspiracy theory? Tell me in the chat. Do you believe that if he gave the etymology of the word Negro, that becomes a conspiracy theory? I mean, I'm just trying to understand, because when I think about conspiracy theories, because we know we have an abundance of conspiracy theories, and I am a conspiracy theorist, I believe the only difference between a conspiracy and reality is 6 months. But if someone gives the definition of a word, that makes them a conspiracy theorist. The Torah is Hebrew. Psalms 83 says they are the ones conspiring. Exactly. We're not worried about their conspiracies. We're worried about word etymology. That's what we're worried about. That's what we're calling conspiracy, word etymology. We're calling geography and where the land of Canaan is conspiracy. Again, I'm going to approach this from the position that, let's say this brother is working in the framework of his own mindset. Where is the critical thinking? I don't believe that it's a misunderstanding of how to use correct language. I believe that that was intentional in saying conspiracy theory. But let's break that down. You're saying that a word being broken down at its etymological base is a conspiracy theory. You're saying that understanding and discerning the geographical location of land is conspiracy theory. And that's what worries him. Let's continue.
The slave trade and its complexity, which includes Africans that traded their own people. And then outside of all of that, which I was hoping we'd engage on, but I don't think we're going to have time. And maybe we'll have to need to have another sit down. I'll maybe do my
Part 2.
I'll maybe do my thoughts and my playing devil's advocate and countering and questioning and poking everything you said here. And maybe after you've seen it, we can then have a part 2 where we maybe address and engage. The journey of you trying to get this movie played, I sense a lot of naivety from your side, which kind of makes me sad. And I'm not sure if you are naive or if you're just telling the story with an understanding of the truth. The world is run by people that are powerful, with people that are willing to do what it takes to protect and preserve themselves. The Jewish community in particular, and they reference the Holocaust under Nazi Germany, have got a slogan of never again. And unlike Black people, which is kind of part of why it's sad, they refuse to entertain anything that seems to discredit their people. And it may not look nice, and it may look like discrimination. And they may close off some taps. And you may have people like the late Saul Kerzner, under Zochosan, etc., and the Jewish Board of Deputies doing what they're doing. And to what you said about the lack of Black unity, it's like Black Africans and even Black people in America are not learning that when you organize.
So let's go ahead and lay that to rest really quickly. He just spoke about conspiracy theory. And then he said, what the Jewish Board of Deputies are doing may seem discriminatory. That doesn't seem conspiratorial to him. It doesn't seem conspiratorial to him that they would yield or wield enough power to be able to contact the movie theater. Their embassy could contact the movie theater and say, shut that movie down and let's put a rating of XXX on it. And in his mind, that didn't register that is conspiratorial. The word etymology is what concerned him. Another thing, the naive comment. I believe that you are coming with a bit of naivety. One of the things that very, very, very much so frustrates me is those who are in the diaspora or on the continent who don't know anything about the history of the quote unquote African American and trying to create this narrative as though somehow we are ignorant of the knowledge that there are powers that should not be that are in operation against us. That baffles me. Do you not understand that the reason why you have access to that Babylonian country that you love so much is because of the bravery of the so-called African Americans standing in the face of colonial powers that were more powerful than them? It's almost to suggest this old house Negro mentality that says, don't you know that you just need to leave well enough alone? Are you so naive that you don't understand that this is bigger than you? That you can't fight the system? You can't fight City Hall. Don't you understand how naive that you're coming off, as though you don't understand how this thing works with powerful men in the earth? You see, that is what made me sad. That's what made me sad. That he began to defend his very oppressor. That made me sad to see him say that they have a slogan that says never again. Where's your slogan? Was it not in the Congo that King Leopold committed the greatest Holocaust? Was it not there? So where's the slogan of the African man and woman that says never again? But we want to sit there and we want to say, well, they are not going to allow anything that comes against their narrative. But it's perfectly okay for us to continue to walk and to move and to operate in total ignorance of self, because there are powerful men and you're ignorant of that. Let me ask you, put a 1 in the chat. Are you ignorant that there are powerful men who have who have plans to keep us subjugated? Are you ignorant of that? Put a 1 in the chat if you didn't know that. Put a 2 in the chat with some fire emojis if you did. If you're already aware that there are people in this earth that oppose you, are you aware that you have opponents? Are you aware of that? I'm just saying, did we not go through the civil rights movement? Did we not go through the Civil War? Did we not go through all of these things that we're continuously going through, the fight for reparations? Are we not going through that with the understanding that there are powerful people who want to keep us docile and subjugated? How dare you insult us like that? How dare you? While you gather your passport to travel the world system that still oppresses you, do you not understand that the so-called African American is the reason why you have the ability to travel and go freely? Why we're not still in slave chains? Because if our ancestors allowed themselves to say, well, they're more powerful and mighty than we would still be on plantations, brother. Do you not understand that the so-called African American was willing to lay down his life for our freedom? That is a slap in our face. Do not compare yourself to us, because you are on your own land being willingly subjugated. You see, that's why Judah is a lion's whelp. That's why Judah roars. That's why Judah will lead and not Ephraim, because there's a bit of a cowardice. Forgive me for saying the truth, but there's a bit of cowardice when it comes to Ephraim that Judah does not possess. Judah cannot afford to possess that type of cowardice that says, okay, well, there's powerful people, so let me just leave well enough alone. We cannot afford to possess that. We must fight. We've been fighting all our lives. Our forefathers have been fighting all their lives. Our foremothers, their forefathers, their foremothers have been fighting since we came onto these shores. Even in the Caribbean, we've been fighting. The first slave rebellion was in Haiti. Toussaint Louverture, please do not offend us. Do not patronize us as though we are ignorant of the fact that we have powerful people who want to destroy us. We are fully aware of that. We wake up every day facing that reality, every single day facing that reality, and it's not good enough for us. It's not okay for us to just accept it. We do not, and we never will accept it. As you said, Penuel, never again. Never again will we lay down and sit there and accept subjugation. You're not going to sit there and watch us be put in chains. No, sir. We're not okay with it. We've never been okay with it. And we continue to fight it. Those who are aware of their Israelite lineage, to those who are not, continue to fight against the powers that should not be. as we are called to, because again, we are the lion's whelp. You better learn how to put some respect on our name.
Organized when you have infiltrated the money system, infiltrated mainstream media, infiltrated alternative media, infiltrated politics, infiltrated institutions. You get to dictate the narrative of the day. And it may feel like an attack on you, like it's a personalized attack. But my small understanding of the Jewish community and other similar communities who are very passionate about preserving their people and their story is, to them, it's not you, it's a narrative. Because you'll start the narrative or you'll pass on the narrative from your sources. But there will be other people to pick it up. Kyrie Irving being just one of them. And they want to shut it down as quickly as possible because according to them, it starts with these little sparks. Next thing, there's concentration camps. Next thing, they are dispossessed. This is how they tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
And for
So Revelation 2939 stands. They do lie. They do lie. Because they do not tell the entire narrative. They tell a partial story that makes them look like perpetual victims as they go and dominate world societies, economies. And that is not problematic to you. Why are you, as someone said here, Tiffany, posturing for them? Why? Why is that? How is it that you're the oppressor at the same time? I'm trying to understand, make that make sense, because the math ain't mathing. You go from an idea, as you say, a narrative, as you say, to now we're going to talk about going into the Holocaust. But yet at the same time, you say that there are powerful men who are ruling. So how can the powerful men rule and then go and be oppressed in the Holocaust at the same time? Make that make sense. Again, we're not using critical thinking skills. Something Candace Owens said, you want to talk about blood libel. You want to use that. That is a strategy that you use so that you can cut people off from understanding the truth of what's really happening. You're the one who's bombing the Palestinians. You're the one that's doing that at an exorbitant rate. And you call it blood libel because I tell the truth. That is a strategy that is used to keep us from knowing the truth and walking in the truth. And you caping for them. I don't understand how our people get to this place where they're no longer concerned about their nation and they're only concerned about themselves. Or you would sell us out.
for anyone who wants to tell an alternative story, it could be Kanye West. You need to understand the type of people you're going up against and the type of institutions that they've infiltrated and the type of narrative they are worried about.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to, if you are more passionate there than their defense to your narrative, find innovative, alternative, aggressive ways to tell your story. One of the conversations we need to have in South Africa.
So he goes on to talk about finding alternative media. We've already been doing that, finding alternative media. But I want to make something very clear to everybody, to everyone. The Most High don't need none of this media. He doesn't. He changed the world, the known world at the time, with 12 men, turned it upside down, who didn't have social media. They didn't have access to radio. They didn't have television. They had 2 feet. They had the power of the Ruach HaKodesh. And they had fearlessness. and they shared the word, and they awoke a nation which would eventually be hijacked by the Romans and twisted and then repackaged to them and sold to them as their oppression. But make no mistake, the Most High doesn't need social media. In fact, he just needs a willing heart, an obedient heart. Just today, I had the opportunity to sit for a minute and speak with 2 Jehovah's Witnesses. And of course, I went to Deuteronomy 28, and I told them who they were. They spoke Spanish. I said, ¿De dónde es usted? They said, Santo Domingo. They did not know that slavery existed in Santo Domingo, because the Dominican Republic has hidden the truth of what happened with slavery in Santo Domingo from the people who are currently there. The inhabitants, they don't even understand how they got there. But I was able to communicate to them and to share that they have been disobedient to the Father's commands, because the Father commanded that they hear his Son and obey him. And his Son said, you must be born again of water and of spirit. And I said, are you born again? And they said, no, we're not born again. We don't. I said, but then you say that you obey the scripture, but yet you are not born again. Well, we're going to have to think about that. But I was able to sit down for a minute just to talk to them and help them to understand the holes in their belief system. And what I'm saying to you is that the Most High doesn't need social media to wake his people up. He just needs you to be a willing vessel. Now we're going to move to this part really quickly here before I move on, to hear one last thing that Penuel has to say in this interview that struck me. After everything that Ron said about all the things that he's been going through, and he just told him, you may feel like this is a personal attack on you, but it's not. Listen to what he has to say.
Jewish rabbi, no Christian pastor, no Muslim imam, nobody will debate me on this topic. It's like I'm the number one fear of man to debate in America and now in Africa. The movie that I have is the number one fear for the Jews. If all the things that they could be worried about in South Africa, when they already are not impoverished poor people, they're not working inside the houses, cleaning stuff. They're not housekeepers. The Jews are not. They're not the ones working at the till, bringing up your groceries. They're not doing hard labor. They're making money. They're not working. We're working for them. We're consuming their services, their products. So they're already on top. They're already on top. They're living comfortable. But we have to, as a poor people that are constantly being oppressed and marginalized, and we're giving misinformation and religious indoctrination. White Jesus, the whole Bible is white. The Sunday school lessons with the kids are coloring books is white Jesus. In the churches here in South Africa, they say Jesus will make your skin white as snow. My wife has actually went to a church with a black pastor, and they're singing in the church. She's standing up and they're saying, Jesus will make your skin as white as snow. And the black people are clapping. They're singing the song. Do they understand what they're saying? That Jesus will make your skin as white as snow. Nobody's paying attention. So this is why I say that we need to wake up. And whether you want to say wake up Caribbean, wake up Africa, wake up Black America, this is what I'm saying. But all these other nationalities, the Chinese and the Indians and the Russians and the Arabs, they don't care about Hebrews to Negroes in this book. They're not fighting me here in South Africa and America. It's the Jewish people. They're fighting me.
But it makes sense, though.
It makes sense because they're hiding something they don't want us to know. Simple and plain.
Your narrative sounds slightly hostile to them. Let me close on my side. Penuel.
So Ron just got finished saying, we are the oppressed people here. South Africans are going to church and singing songs that say, Jesus will make your skin white as snow. Not your sin, your skin, white as snow. This 1% Ashkenazi population, they're the millionaires. They're the ones that are living while we're serving them. And his response was, you seem hostile to them. That just blew me away. That absolutely blew me away when I heard that. How exactly? Houseway? Please help me to understand. Educate me as to where the hostility. Quite frankly, Ron exerted a level of patience that I don't know that I could possess. Y'all know me well enough to know. I feel like he was very patient as he painstakingly shared all of the things that he has been going through to wake his brothers and sisters up, all the things that have been happening because of that 1% that is existing on that land that is supposed to be the land flowing with milk and honey. The necessity to wake up to who we are. And Penuel's response was, you sound hostile to them. Penuel is a biblical name, and he definitely goes on to share that. So let's see what it means. According to the biblical narrative, the site where Jacob wrestled with the Most High is called the face of God, Penuel, face of God. It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. Jacob wrestled. Jacob is the progenitor of the Israelites, of whom Ron Dalton spent almost 2 hours communicating about. Jacob wrestled because of his fear of his brother Esau, who he thought was going to kill him. So he wrestled with the angel of Yahuwah till the break of day. And his name was there changed to Israel. And he said that he was naming that place Penuel. Why? Because he saw Elohim face to face, and yet his life was spared. And yet here we have this man whose parents named him Penuel, I believe, not living up to his name, not accepting his identity. From what I understand, and I can only speculate because I don't know much about him, that he is anti-Bible altogether, anti-scripture. And I don't want to put any type of belief system on him. I don't know who he is. But it's something he said very interesting that reflects his character. And I want y'all to take a listen.
As I grew older, I realized the power of words, the power of names, the power of identity. I have 6 children now. Nkunzmalanga, Afrika, Zulu, Kanyezi, Shara, name and identity and you know. And I said, at which point do I name myself? My mother calls me Penuel or Lungel. What do I call me? And I said, I want to be the source of as much knowledge and wealth as possible. Today we have Google, which has become like Big Brother in The Great Gatsby or in the book 1984. I want to be Google, but I don't want to be called Google. I want to be called God. As I grew older, I realized the power of words.
I don't want to be called Google. I want to be called God. I don't want to wrestle with the Most High. I want to be the Most High. This is the problem. This is the problem here, where the mindset comes in. While we have the problems that we have in our community, is because of idolatry, the worship of self, not recognizing that while you're busy worshiping yourself, your enemy is at the gate ready to go to war with you while you tell yourself that you're a God, while you convince yourself of something that is not true, while you deceive yourself. This is the place that we're at. And Ron has been speaking to this fact and this reality in America and now in South Africa, and trying to help wake our people up. And it is dire. I have one more video I want to share with you. I ask those of you who can to support this platform to do so, please. I have one more video I want to share with you because I think that we don't understand the severity. Sometimes the Most High will send a person to communicate what is getting ready to take place, and no one will listen to them until it is too late. So this video was shared 2 days ago. I do not fully agree with the views expressed in this video, but it's very important that you hear what she has to say, because it's exactly what Ron has been saying the whole time. Take a listen.
And appreciated. So Israel
Fair
has
use.
their promise of moving to Africa. Yes, they've been saying it in plain sight to your faces that Africa is the best place for them now to go to. And the unfortunate thing is that is that Africans are ready to welcome Israel. Yeah, because these are the so-called children of a God that have been in the holy books. Yeah, so, and you know now, Africans worship these people. Africans worship these people. Why do you think they worship these people so much? Because of religion. And that's why there's no way you talk about the liberation of the motherland that you would not talk about religion. There's no way you talk about geopolitics and religion will not be involved. There's no way you talk about Africa, the history of the motherland, and religion will not be involved. So if we want to be liberated, we should first liberate ourselves from the hold of religion. Because it is because of religion or the belief that people had, that people grew with through religions, these three Abrahamite religions, that they have it in their head that these people who have taken other people's homeland and displaced people, a lot of people are homeless today. They don't even know what the next meal will be. They feel that these people who are causing all these atrocities and abominations in the world today are the children of a God. And it is a God that has given these people the power to do all this evil that they have done to people. What kind of God is this? You have not given me answers, Your Majesties. I've been asking, what kind of God are these religions worshiping? This organized religion, what kind of God do they worship that is so thirsty for confusion, so thirsty for blood? Whenever people are living happily, peacefully, this God is not happy. This God will always cause a problem through these so-called children of a God, all right? So there was a time that Putin, oh my goodness. There was a time that Netanyahu was on the press and he was giving, he was talking about the dreams that Israel have for Africa. This beautiful dream of coming to Africa because they feel like Africa is a virgin land and a lot of possibilities are in Africa, and they are going to come with their own technology to help Africans develop. Oh my goodness. You know, when Africans hear this one, hey, their body begin to vibrate. Finally, God have answered. He's sending his children to come and save us. All right, let me take you there. We might think these things just happen. We might think there's no need to be worrying ourselves over this. It's not important. It doesn't have any meaning. But I kid you not, this is how they carry on their plans before your faces. And then you sit, you ask yourself, but when did they plan this thing? They had planned and they even told you. You refuse to believe. You're blinded by either religion or you decide not to involve yourself in things that is about your own salvation.
Warning to all South Africans, the Israelis are leaving Israel and moving to Western Cape. And this is being made possible by British politicians. Watch this video.
In the Western Cape is an ideological homeland for people who think like us, people who have broadly Western values, who want to live in the first world, and want to and I've often used the example, the Western Cape becomes almost like Israel for the Jews, if I can use that example. You don't have to go and live in Israel to benefit, if you're Jewish, to benefit from an Israeli state. You've got somebody who's your people, your ideological people, and they're going to have your best interests at heart. And I think it's the one place where in South Africa, current South Africa, we can create hard power. We can have a police force, we can have a military, we can have borders, and actually be in a situation to influence in a really significant way at a national level the circumstances in South Africa.
Now, in the video, you are seeing British politicians discussing creating a new Israel in Western Cape. As we all know, they've been trying to annex the Western Cape from the rest of South Africa. The DA government in the Western Cape has been issuing permanent residences for Europeans who are moving from Europe into South Africa to settle down. Why? Because they want to increase the population of Europeans in the Western Cape so that they should have voting power. And guess what they're doing to the local South Africans in the Western Cape? They are making sure that life is expensive for any Black person living in the Western Cape so that they move out of the Western Cape to other parts of South Africa. And they've done this for many years, and that's how they've managed to keep the DA in control of the Western Cape. You know, the Israelis know that with the way things are going, the state of Israel has slim chances of surviving. So they're having a plan B. They're trying to move the Israelis from out there to Western Cape. And remember, who helped create the state of Israel in the first place? The same British politicians who are discussing creating a new Israel in Western Cape. They are keeping you preoccupied with the issue of foreigners because they know that as long as you're preoccupied with the issue of foreigners, you won't think about your land. They want to make it seem as though the biggest problem for South Africans is foreigners, but the most important issue is land. And they don't want you South Africans to discuss land at all. So they are sponsoring discussions and conversations. They are pushing adverts. They're even paying political parties to push this foreigner issue. And they've made sure that the only political party that has been discussing land, like the EFF, is silenced for good. And what have they done to the EFF? They're disbanding the EFF. South Africans, open your eyes. The Israelis are coming in.
Watch the video for my kids, please. I will not be long. I will just ask you for...
My South Africans, brothers and sisters, will you agree to this one? Because you...
Now, I'm going to let her share her commentary because I thought her commentary was very well done for the most part. This is my first time running across her channel. So I was blown away when I saw this video. And that's why, you know, when people are coming against Ron for saying that the land of Canaan is in sub-Saharan Africa, it's so interesting to me. And again, no shade on those who have disagreements, right? Because we're all coming into this place where we're trying to learn the truth. But as you just saw, they're trying to make South Africa the new Israel. This is what's happening in real time. They're not content any longer with that strip of land that they have. They want the land flowing with milk and honey, the land of abundance. You see them talking about this, and they're gentrifying Cape what do they call this again here? This part of the land? They're gentrifying that part where they want them to be white only. This is what I'm talking about. Why would they be doing that? Why would they be trying to make a new Israel over there if the so-called state of Israel is the real location? I'm just saying, it's something we need to think on. But let's take a listen to her commentary really quickly.
We don't always agree. Okay? This is divide and conquer. This is what they have been doing from ages past. Go in, divide them, make them hate themselves, cause confusion in their midst, and then conquer them. This has been the tactics from ages past. Africans, when are we going to learn? When are we going to understand that it's not just about there is always a bigger picture to all these things that these people want to push forward to you, to all these things they want to divert your attention to. There is always a bigger picture. Okay, now when you look at the geography of the Western Cape and the economy, you understand what he is saying. I got a lot of South Africans who came to him at the section, at his comment section, and were agitating, they were getting angry that what he's saying is not true. It's happening before you, and you are still defending it. And this is exactly what they want. Because we are confused. We are confused. And why do you think we are confused? Because we are out of track right now as Africans. We are out of track. Remember when I was giving you my experiences traveling around the borders, and I told you that these people are buying land. It's not just South Africa. These people are buying land, and the war is coming. It's inevitable, like Ibrahim Traore said, we have to fight. Now they are coming into interest, buying land, taking out land from us. Land is like the core of every nation. And we are giving out our land in thanksgiving to these people. I don't know how much they pay for these lands. I don't know how they get you to sell these lands for them. We make it difficult for ourselves as Africans to purchase lands from countries in Africa, but we make it so easy for Europeans to come and purchase lands in Africa. We are losing it. And these people are so patient that they will gradually make plans that will be established in maybe 20, 30 years coming. They can start gradually now to implement things to prepare themselves. This is how they love their race. This is how they love themselves. Why can't we as a Black nation, I'm not talking about just Africans now, melanated in every corner of the earth, have a cause, have a purpose? These people have a cause, they have a purpose. And what is that purpose? That they survive. We're talking about Ama Tadeu, what she said here, that Africans, Black people lack survival skills. Everybody, all of you were angry. You were defending yourself that what she said was not right. It's painful when the truth is rubbed on our faces sometimes. She said we lack survival skills. We're all angry. The Chinese man said we were stupid. We were all angry. And this is it plain before us. It's plain here before us. Now, I have been drawing your mind to how the Israelis were implanted in Palestine. Okay? The people that your holy books talk about are not these people that are in that land today causing confusion. These are people that came from Europe. They implanted them there, gave them names, taught them things. How many times do you want to hear it? Because that place became a state in 1948. The state of Israel was created in 1948. Now, when you do diggings to the leaders, those who have been leading those group of people called the Israelis today, do some diggings to their governments. Do some diggings to those who rule them. You discover that all of them have European origin. They all have European origin. None of them is original to that land, Palestine. Netanyahu himself, is he original to Palestine? They hide most of these things, okay? And they prevent people from talking. They hide most of these things and prevent people from talking. Is Netanyahu original to Palestine? The answer is no.
This new tool is taking the editing world by storm. Freelancers are using it to create Pixar-style animations and
All the ministers and their bodies, are they originals to Palestine? No. All of them put together that call themselves Israeli, are they original to Palestine? No, except those who they just gave birth to their generations. If you do digging, do your own findings to Palestine, you understand what I'm saying. Prior to the Ottomans ruling that angle itself, there were people who lived there. When the Ottomans took over Palestine, they took out those originals who were there, and they took over. That was how we got the original Palestinians that were there. Yeah, this is the truth. It's painful, but the truth is that the Palestinians themselves, who are called the Palestinians today, are not the originals to that land called Palestine. They are not originals. Israelis who are there today fighting and unaliving people everywhere, left, right, center, are not originals. Their own was just even yesterday that they came there. And there was a plan. There was a reason why they packed them and put them there. And now they are beginning to see that Palestinians themselves, those who are there fighting with them right now, are not ready to give up this land. They are looking for places where they can shift these people to. And where do you think is good enough? Is Africa. So right before your faces, they are buying lands. And I just hope it will not be too late for us, that there will be a time that they will come in and fight to take our lands from us. If we do not fight, these people will come take our lands. They have started already. They have been there. They've been in different parts of West Africa, South Africa, Central Africa. They are there. It's like they just dispatch them gradually now. They've dispatched them. Few of them, they're just roaming around purchasing land. When I say they purchase land, they purchase acres of land. And then we have our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, come back home, come back home. They don't want to come. Come back home, come back home. It will be like you just want them to come and share in your suffering, or you want them to come and save you. If we don't work together, how do we work out our salvation? Nothing is coming from the skies. It's high time we know this. Nothing is flying down from the skies. We have already been given the power to fight for ourselves, to work out our own freedom, to work out our own salvation. And until we realize that, nothing will change in the melanated community. Leave your thoughts and opinion there at the section.
I want to thank that sister for her powerful commentary. My disagreement is at the end because Yahusha is coming back. When he comes, he's coming with 10,000 of his angels. And I do believe that. And another thing I want to say about what she said is it reminded me immediately of Joel chapter 3, which reads, "For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations." Let's read that again. "I will gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they've scattered among the nations and parted my land." Right? So the fact that we see now that all these nations are all fighting for the continent, what they call the scramble for Africa, right? They're fighting for it. The UK, Russia, China, the state of Israel, right? The Arab nations, they're all in the land, the Asians, not just the Chinese, the Indians, they're all fighting for that land. He said he's going to bring them down as they're parting his land. He's going to plead with them there for his people. Why? Because they cast lots for my people and have given a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. Colonization, chattel slavery. It goes on and saying, what do you have to do with me, O Tyre and Sidon, and the coast of Palestine? Come on now. Will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head? Because you've taken my silver and my gold and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians, that you might remove them far from their border. Can't we see this in real time, y'all? Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither you sold them and will return your recompense upon your head. And I'm going to sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for Yahuwah hath spoken. So he's telling them, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into the swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. See how they confuse us? See how they confuse us? The Most High was mocking them when he said that. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahuwah. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. That's what we're gonna do. Okay? But Judah shall dwell forever. Egypt's gonna be desolate. Edom's gonna be desolate. But Judah's gonna dwell forever. And Jerusalem from generation to generation. So I see so much prophecy happening right now, where these nations are coming. And they think that they're there to colonize. They think that they're there to take over and to establish themselves in the land. But they don't understand that the Most High is the one who is drawing them. As he says, he's getting ready to bring back the captivity of his people. And it's going to be there that everybody going to see who really bowed about it. That's what's really going to happen. So you're watching prophecy happen in real time. Real time. It's time to get ready. I want to give a shout out to Dale Johnson. Thank you so much for your Cash App. I appreciate you very much. Thank you. Donald Franklin, thank you so much for your Cash App. And also to Dale Johnson, thank you for your continued support. Oftentimes I don't get a chance to thank you on this platform, but I want to make sure that I do that tonight. Thank you very much for your continued support. And thank you, Don P, as well for your support. I appreciate you, my brother. Sister Georgetta Pinnock, want to thank you also for your Cash App tonight. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you. Trying Truth says, Sister Ashanda, bless you for the work you do. May Father continue to meet your needs. Thank you so much. Yes, I appreciate that. And he does. He meets my needs according to his glorious riches in Yahushua HaMashiach. And I thank him that he's using you to be a part of that. So thank you. Operation Wake Up Negro got here late. I'll go back and rewatch The Colonizers Must Be Stopped. Thank you so much, Operation Wake Up Negro, for your super chat as well. And yes, all of these colonizers, all of these colonialist powers that should not be, will be stopped. We are watching prophecy unfold. So we are in an uncivil war, and we do have to wake up and understand the times that we're living in and get our hearts in tune to obey the will of our Father in heaven. That's why I said I wasn't going to be on as much anymore, because the more that I am away from social media, the clearer I hear from him. And the more that I can do what he's called me to do, which is to be a caretaker in my home and raising up this next generation. Because how many of us know that we're a little raggedy now as we get older? How many of us know that we don't have the strength that we once had in our youth? And that is the next generation that has to be prepared. This next generation, remember, the first generation that was in the wilderness died off. They were so stuck in their Egyptian mentality that they had to die off. The Most High had to wait for the next generation just to prepare to fight for the promise. And so it's up to us. It's our responsibility as parents and as grandparents to teach our children Yahuwah's laws, his statutes, and his commandments. I'm diligent about that by his grace. Why? Because when the next generation is raised up, they will be the warriors of Judah and Israel. Judah and Ephraim that are coming together as one. And we thank Yah for them. So let's continue to do the work that he's called us to do. Thank you so much, Ms. Kimberly, for your super chat as well. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you. All of you, whether you can give or cannot give, I appreciate you for even showing up. I thank you for liking, for sharing, for subscribing. I know I'm not always on here. I'm not a big fan of social media. I think the majority of it is a lie, and I think the majority of it is a distraction, and we cannot allow ourselves to be distracted. We must be busy about our Father's business. That is why we were put on this earth, to be busy about our Father's business. So let's continue to do that. Next week, I will be back, though. I ask you to join me as I interview Brother Ron Dalton. For those of you who did not see, he is going to be having his first debate in a long time with Deacon Haka on where is the Holy Land, the Middle East or sub-Saharan Africa. We will be dissecting what that debate is going to be like. I will be there at that debate. I'm looking forward to it, October 6th. And we invite all of you to come in because that is going to be an incredible, incredible conversation. Neither one of those brothers are shabby. So I'm looking forward to engaging in that dialogue. Thank y'all so much again for tuning in. May Yahuwah bless and strengthen you throughout your week, throughout the rest of your weekend. And may you continue to seek his face and trust in his hand, his mighty right hand. Yes, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. That is the rest of that verse. But understand, wait and see the salvation, Yahushua HaMashiach of the Most High, as he delivers his people. As always, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Love you all. And remember, what is it that I say? I haven't said it in a long time, y'all. Love yourselves without hating your enemies. Yeah, we got to do that every day. All right, family. Y'all be blessed. Talk to you soon.